To most people, it's graffiti, but here in East Los Angeles, these markings are called placa. Gang members use them to stake out their territory and make their presence felt. After many years of relative quiet, gang violence is on the upswing again. Here in the heart of East Los Angeles, the California Youth Authority is hard at work trying to get gang leaders together so they can reduce and eliminate gang warfare. As a result, over the past 11 months, killings have dropped by 15%. CYA official Chuck Pineda describes the situation.
As you know, the code of dress here in East LA many times tends to be Pendletons and either khakis or counties of some kind. And sometimes non-gang members will also dress that way. If a gang raids another gang and they see something like that, they'll take it for granted that member is a member of the enemy gang, thereby going down and shooting him and assaulting him.
Many of these young people find themselves socially and culturally isolated from the rest of the city.
Well, there's really nothing in them for them. You know what I mean? It's just a group, man. They take care of each other. You know what I mean? So they don't have no other resources to go to but to be on the streets and fight, man. If you don't talk to them and tell them, you know what? Well, why don't you do this with your time, man? You know what I mean? There's nobody telling them that. You know what I mean?
In the city of Los Angeles, the police department has a special section set up to deal with gang problems. But even though a case can be solved, it's often impossible to get a conviction. Most of the people involved in gang-related crimes will never see the inside of a room like this. But the Youth Authority, the police, and the courts are doing their best to change that. From a jail cell in downtown Los Angeles, Tony Valdez, reporting for Channel 5 Newswatch.
Done. But I think your question is a very good one. I only have a simple answer. We were talking about, Ezekiel, how he was involved in religion. But he kind of a feeling I once had when I was involved with some guys in the late 60s in East LA, Casa de Cardenalismo. They try to use it. And it's something you can't explain. You have to feel it. You know your back is covered in.
Joe, how many gangs have we got in Los Angeles?
In the city of Los Angeles, we have 122 gangs at this time. That's motorcycle gangs, street gangs, and outlaw car clubs.
And how old are the people involved in these gangs?
The active people would be anywhere from 14 to 21 years old.
What kind of crimes do they get involved in?
Murders, attempt murders, rapes, ADWs, shootings into homes.
How many of these crimes are solved? You were telling me about a young man that was involved in two murder cases within a short span?
Well, we have one case that we're investigating right now, or we're assisting with, where the individual was arrested for a murder. Now we only have a 48-hour period where we can hold him, and then at the end of this time we have to release him if we don't have sufficient evidence for a filing. That's to present it to the district attorney, and then he goes ahead and files it for our court. We're still working on the case. This individual was released because of the lack of evidence at this time, and yesterday he has been involved in another one, and he was identified as being involved in another crime, another murder. Is he still talking?
Well, he's filming. Most of the people involved in gang crimes will never see the inside of a room like this, but the Youth Authority, the police, and the courts are doing their best to change that. From a jail cell in Los Angeles, Tony Valdez, reporting for Channel 5 Newswatch. Chuck, how old are the people that are involved in gangs?
Gang members usually range from 13 years of age to approximately 50 years of age. When I get into the 50s, I'm talking about veteranos, older gang members that may not be involved in the actual gang wars or feuds or activity. However, they still condone the gang per se.
Why do these people join gangs in the first place?
Well, I think that's a question that I think sociologists and psychologists haven't been able to answer completely, but what we've learned in this community is that there's a lack of identification with positive role images. We've got broken homes. We have kids who have no parents whatsoever. There's kids who find nothing that you can identify with. So the gang meets their basic psychological needs of want, recognition, love, attention, status. And that's why many of the members are in gangs. There are some that get in there for protection only.
What kind of things do these gangs get into when they start fighting?
The feuds usually consist of murders, assaults on each other.
Does the public ever get involved? Innocent bystanders?
Bystanders have been the victims of one gang shooting other gang members or mistakenly taking an innocent person for a gang member.
To put a stop to this?
The California Youth Authority has a lot to do with this project because basically the former director, Ellen F. Breed, and the present director, Pearl West, made a decision that we could do something here in East Los Angeles to save some lives. And Pearl West has been very supportive of this project because we can make the area safe for not only gang members, but for the residents as well. And we're committed to bringing peace to the area.
How does gang activity here in East Los Angeles compare to other cities and other parts of the country?
East Los Angeles probably has the highest gang homicide rate in the nation. A couple of years ago, while I was at Harvard, Walter B. Miller and I compiled some data. And at that time, Philadelphia had the highest gang homicide rate in the nation. However, when we compiled the statistics given to us by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, who have cooperated with us, it indicated that LA had 10 times the gang homicide rate that Philadelphia had when you compared the population and the square mileage. We have approximately 10 square miles here. And at that time, about 103,000 residents, where Philadelphia had about 2 million.
Okay.
También tiraba yo chingazos cuando estaba chaval, and I don't think I've changed too much from the time that I was growing up in the streets up to now, but what has changed me in this sense is that I went to school. But the same anger, the same chingazos that I would throw it, you know, in words. Because I realized I didn't have the skills to do the job on people that I wanted to do. I knew I can fuck them up, you know, with my fist, but I couldn't fuck them up with words. And so today, I develop a voice that, you know, shocks people sometimes, but at the same time, I have the information, a frame of reference, that I can counter people who have been making decisions about me, myself. You know, trying to define me as a person. But the same energies that you have for throwing chingazos can be transferred in words with the same anger, with the same emphasis. You know,
Much more satisfaction sometimes. You learn how to barb with words. You put swords on your words and you can chop people up. But that's tough, you know, because we're a people of action. Traditionally, part of the cultural background, going through all these different stages of change, we just act, trying to get things, you know. How do you break a cultural and defend your home? What happens, you know what I mean? It's switch on you go to the end. And if we can get that and redirect it where they go with their friendship, that's going to be,
You know, redirect the barrio so they don't die out in the street.
exactly. It's going to have to be someone from that community and someone from this larger community to tie it all together. That's why when you guys are meeting here.
Like when he says, there's a.
Okay. Why did you get involved in gang activities?
I really didn't get involved in gang activities. I got involved into being a gang consultant. My whole trip was, you know, trying to get the dudes into you know, going out on camping trips and playing baseball and playing football.
But weren't you involved in a gang before that?
Yeah, Barrio Nuevo.
Yeah. Why? Why did you get involved in that gang?
Because, you know, I'm just hanging around all the homeboys, and then just one day they were all in my living room, and, you know, they decided to get me into the neighborhood.
How many times did you have fights with other gangs?
I personally haven't had any fights with any other gangs. My whole thing is just trying to get it together by, you know, by sports and things like that.
Good, thank you. Why did you get involved in gangs?
So I wanted to help the youngsters out, you know, and I'm tired of seeing them get involved in gang activities and stuff. Maybe we can change their minds, you know what I mean? Getting involved in something else, man, instead of hurting each other.
But you were involved in a gang at one time?
Yes, I was very strongly involved. I used to, you know, fight and stuff, you know what I mean? But maybe by talking to the youngsters, you know, maybe you can change them, but all you can do is talk to them. Maybe, you know, 1 out of 10, you know what I mean? If you can catch one, you know, you saved one.
Why do the kids stay in the gangs? What's in it for them? Out of East LA and see what the rest of Los Angeles is like.
Not very.
Oh.